Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I am here today with Linda Bonnar. Linda Bonnar is a personal and corporate coach, author, trainer, and educational well-being consultant based in New York City. Passionate about empowering others to succeed, Linda partners with business executives and future leaders across the globe to overcome the complexities with regards to people development, talent management, and organizational success. Committed to excellence, Linda equips her clients with a range of skills, tools, and techniques to overcome challenges successfully and move forward confidently, allowing them to thrive in life, not just survive the daily grind. Linda is an International Coach Federation professional certified coach, a master NLP neuro-linguistic programming coach and practitioner, and she is currently undertaking a diploma in positive organizational psychology. As a corporate coach, trainer, Linda has worked with individuals from global companies such as Google, Warner Media, Guardian Wealth Management, Salesforce, and Chevron, and Oliver Wyman. Originally from Galway, Ireland, Linda spent 15 years living in the Middle East before relocating to New York City in 2019. Through her own personal development journey, Linda discovered the power of coaching, and after 14 years as a history teacher, set up her own coaching business. Linda regularly contributed to UAE media, appearing frequently on national radio and writing articles for local publications, including Women's Health Middle East. She wrote her first book, Press Play, a coaching book for teenagers, in 2017, along with creating the Start 30-Day Journal. As a mental health advocate, Linda continually works to break the stigma and silence that surround this topic. Today, Linda was so great and she was so patient. I had a Trojan horse on my computer, and it has caused a week of me being unable to talk into the microphone. And I guess my husband had something on his computer, so neither one of the PCs worked. And I had to jump on my iPad, and it was like I did a comedy routine. I was climbing on furniture, climbing down on the floor, trying to get the thing working. And oh my goodness. So anyway, it was funny. It had us laughing. And she really brought it today. She helped us with imposter syndrome and how to get through that and how to have better confidence in ourselves, build self-worth, self-belief, and self-esteem. Working on work-life balance, what balance is, what it really means to us, how we can establish better boundaries, and perfectionism, how to release ourselves from that so that we can manage overwhelm and anxiety. And today was just so good today. You guys are really going to enjoy this episode. Linda is amazing. So without further ado, we're going to talk to the other Linda. I am more than excited to welcome the one, the only Linda Bonnar to the show today. Welcome.
Hi, Linda. It's so good to be here with you. I feel like we've been through a lot already.
Yeah, you guys, I did a comedy act right before.
It was great.
So we're already laughing and carrying on, and that's the only way to be, is to have fun regardless of your circumstances. If you can learn to laugh and enjoy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You've made me laugh already, Linda, because like I said to you, I would have just given up. I would have been like, right, okay, we're done. I can't fix this.
It's not happening, right?
It's not, but I love it.
Gosh.
You power through. And I think it's like your mindset, isn't it? It's like, right, I'm going to make this work. I'm definitely getting it done.
We're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so many times in life, you hit obstacles. And if you're on the path to greatness of any sort, it is not smooth, is it?
No, I love that. Yeah,
So you're going to hit obstacles along the way, and it's how you deal with those obstacles that determine your course, I think.
definitely. Oh,
And
that's
you're here
great.
today to help everybody with that. And I just have to say that this morning, the discussion with my BFF was all about imposter syndrome, because we have a goal, a dream, something that we're on our bucket list, which I'll be telling in just not very long way, that we're going to be doing, that is beyond exciting, probably one of the top 5 experiences in my life. And what comes up when you decide to take the plunge is imposter syndrome. Who am I to do this? What will people think? Walk us through imposter syndrome, what it is, who it affects, and how to deal with these things, these voices that come up in your head, which I think is just fear, but
Oh, I love this. I love it. So it originally, no, I don't want to say originally either, right? A phrase coined back in the 1970s, predominantly associated with high achieving women, mainly executives, so female executives who are in the boardroom, who start then to think, well, who am I to be sitting here amongst all these men, right? And those feelings of, do I deserve to be here? I must have been lucky to get here, because where are the rest of the women? And that's basically it. And so at the time, it was presumed that it was mainly women again who dealt with or were battling the imposter syndrome. And now that's completely changed. So we know through research and everything else that it's not gender specific at all. And I honestly do think, Linda, with all the people that I've worked with on the imposter syndrome, that it affects everybody at some stage of their life or of their career. And it is those feelings of, I don't belong here. I'm an imposter. What am I doing here? And like you said, who am I to be here? And it's also really interesting that you said as well, it usually shows up when we want to make that big change or that big step. Whoa, so it shows up. I mean, mine is here most of the time anyways, here with me. So it usually shows up with that, really? You're going to do what? Who are you to do that? You're not the expert here. You're not like so-and-so. Look at them. It's okay for them to do, but it's not okay for us to do it almost. And it can show up in the form of our inner critic. It's that inner voice then that shows up and encourages us to question ourselves, to start doubting our ability, to start questioning any success that we already have, like in our bags already. And gosh, it can just be such an interesting thing to deal with.
it's like this thing where you question yourself, is when you're achieving something great, is it my ego? Is it, am I worthy? And if it was something that you had to pay for, like when we would do photo shoots, we would have to pay for a photo shoot. We would pay for hair and makeup. And am I worthy of spending this money? If it's expensive, we're equating our value to this thing. And I think money is just really an energy and an exchange.
Yes.
And like when you have a goal, something might be a little harder to obtain. You might have to work a little harder to reach the goal. And then again, the imposter syndrome just creeps in, because I find with everything that I have done, like building my business, teaching my first fitness class umpteen years ago, personal training, charging what you're worth, speaking to an audience, hello, it's all these fears that come
Yes.
up. Am I good enough?
Mm.
Am I worthy? And what are some tools to help people when they're having these feelings, because they may not recognize that's what it is. It's
Yeah.
just fear.
Yeah. I love this question, Linda, and I love it for so many different reasons. And the first thing that I'll say is invite it in. You know, when it shows up, instead of pretending that it's not there, invite it in, invite it around for tea or coffee or a glass of wine or a walk in the park or whatever, but shed light on it. And that's, you know, it's very similar then in how we could potentially deal with fear as well. Shed light on it, don't leave it in the dark, bring it here, have an honest and open conversation with it. What's your story? What's going on? You know, what's behind you showing up right now? And quite often, you know, so it doesn't go about it in the right way in terms of how it shows up, but quite often it's protective. You know, so if you don't take that huge step, if you don't do this really exciting thing that you're about to do, and you don't risk the fear of judgment, no one can judge you. If we don't step on stage, no one can judge us. We can stay safe, but we also stay small.
Yes, that is a tweetable right there.
And look, if that's what we want, if we want to stay small, fine. Allow fear, allow the imposter syndrome to take over. Great. But how many of us really want that? Because I think behind all of this is this desire to empower people, empower women like you do, Linda, like you're all about. And you can't do that from a space of being small and staying safe, playing safe.
Yes, and the biggest thing you have to unhook yourself from is the fear of other people's judgment, and actually your own judgment, because
Yes.
it could be even worse.
Yes. Well, we're our own worst critics, right? Like we'll
Yeah.
judge ourselves first, and what we're willing then to judge in others is a reflection of something about ourselves. You know, who is she to be doing that? Look at her. Who does she think she is? Really, like a lot of that is, gosh, I wish I had the confidence to do what she's doing, and I don't.
Oh,
And so therefore, instead of saying good on you, I'd love to be like you, it's like, you know, we'll do a complete 360 on it.
yes. And so there again, this is a big one, because I feel like women in general, when they shine, they get afraid. And it's just that whole quote by Maya Angelou where she says it's that we're afraid of our brilliance, that, you know, we're more afraid of that.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to be attacked.
Yes.
We don't want to be judged. We don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable.
Oh no, definitely not.
And we're kind and nurturing and
Yes.
loving, and we want everybody to be okay if we make this step. Men don't do that.
No.
They don't. They just make the step, and they, you know. So what is that all about?
And you bring up such a good point, Linda, and because a lot of it is that nurturing, you know, it's that kindness, it's that bring everybody in, you know, we're women, so this is what, you know, we're naturally wired to do, and all of that stuff that they love to throw at us. Whereas, you know, it comes down to you can still bring everybody in, and you can shine as well. Just because you're shining brightly doesn't mean that there's a dimmer light on anybody else at all. You know, shine the light, and then others get more light on them as well. It's so powerful.
And how does our playing small actually serve anyone?
Well, that's the thing. Because if we're out to, again, if our purpose is to empower others, how are we doing that? Like, there's so much in my head right now. I feel like I'm going to go off on a tangent, but it's how we need to be walking our talk first of all. So it's not about thinking that we're better than anybody else. Sometimes you've got to go first so that others can say, oh, right, well, if she can do it, it's not that, you know, oh, look at her, who does she think she is? If she can do it, I can do it as well. You know, so let me model the behaviors that she's doing.
Yeah. And I think if you look at it that way, because it can be normal for anyone to be having FOMO when they see somebody do something really cool. But that FOMO is a clue of what it is you really want. And it's a clue, if they can do that, I could do that too.
Yes.
And there's a roadmap already. Maybe my friend will help me.
It's not beautiful. You know, so it's not about then, and it removes a lot of the competition or a lot of the comparison traps. You know, all of that way of thinking as well. It's that beautiful way of complimenting and aspiring to be like someone instead of putting them down and being so critical. It's like, you know, right, I wonder what is possible for me and how I can emulate what that person is doing so well. You know, what are the tools that I need? What do I already have to succeed? Where have I already been successful? And now how can I take it a step further?
And then, like, when you first start on a journey of something that you have no idea about, but you want to kind of learn from people, just asking them, like, what do you need? How can I help? You know, is there a role I can play? Let's say somebody's launching a book and you wanna have a New York Times bestseller someday. Well, you know, find out how that book launch goes. How did they do it? What are the pieces, you know, to keep them successful so that they actually achieve the goals? Where did they fall short? All of the things. It's like a learning experience. And so rather than just sitting, looking at somebody having the FOMO, or even worse yet, just not doing anything because we don't know what to do.
Yes. Linda, you bring up so many good points. Again, I'm like, oh, there's so many good things in this. And one of them is, you know, in terms of dealing with the imposter syndrome then as well, it's owning your successes and also owning what you don't know. And sharing that, having the confidence to share that with others. You know, so instead of when people do wonder about your roadmap, it's not about, yeah, everything was fantastic. Listen, here's where it didn't work out so well for me. And I want to share this with you to prevent you or possibly prevent you from making the same mistake that I did. When I did this, this happened. You know, I recommend this, or I noticed somebody else did this. And so sharing those things as well. You know, so it's not that someone else is going to steal your light. My gosh, the last time I looked, there was enough
I
light to
think
go around
people
for
get
everyone.
really worried about
Oh,
that.
yeah.
They get worried that someone's going to steal my ideas and someone's going to take what's mine. And it's a lack mentality.
Yes.
I mean, it is a reality. Sometimes some people do copy,
Yes.
but they cannot ever be you. And you're going to do things, you could do the same thing so differently. It won't even look the same.
And that's so beautiful, right? There's, you know, how many coaches are there in the world? Millions, okay? And it's, if we were to think like that, if we were to allow the imposter syndrome to come in and, you know, hijack our confidence or whatever, we wouldn't do anything. So it's thinking about, well, just because I do the exact same thing as this other, you know, imposter syndrome coach, we each have our own ways of doing it. And that's what makes it so unique and so special.
Yeah, so good, so good. And I know so many people today are relating to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But also, I'm going to go a step further into the whole comparison thing, because women do this more than anybody I know, is this comparing yourselves to where you're at or what you're doing or how you look and how this person looks. And we should be in our own lane, looking at our own paper, celebrating our accomplishments, our improvements, versus looking at somebody over here that maybe is lean and 2% body fat. I hope not, but and they're, you know, saying, I eat everything and I'm just like this. And you're like hating on yourself because you're eating green beans and lettuce and you still aren't that lean, you know? So I think it's, again, getting in that whole, I feel like these things are so closely related.
Yes. Yeah, completely. Because again, what you've described is like that, the mentality of lack. I'm lacking something. somebody else has it, or we think, right? So a lot of this is conjecture. We're projecting things onto other people. We scroll and we see how people look, or we see what they have, and it's like, oh, you know, and why can't I? Why don't I have that? Lack, lack, lack. Instead of looking at everything that we do have, you know, practicing gratitude, being grateful for the fact that you even, you know, that we have the legs to run, and said, oh, I couldn't run a 3:15 marathon, like even if I really tried. Well, I'm sorry, but you can get out there and you can run. Bringing it back to those small, simple things. If that person can do that, fantastic. So how about we compliment instead of we criticize first, or we compliment instead of comparing, or better still, we compliment and compliment. Good on that person for running her 2:30 or 3:15, whatever it is. And I'm pretty good too for running my slower marathon time. We're all great.
Well, even like Mel Robbins, the motivational speaker, says she wanted six-pack abs, really wanted them, until she found out what it required to have them. So there's also that, when you are comparing yourself or wanting something, you have to count the cost. Do you really want it? And do you want it bad enough to work for it?
I see. Yeah, exactly. What is it that you really want? And what's the work that you're willing to do to get there? And it always reminds me of a conversation with my husband, you know, where I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see this younger girl, and she's got this incredible marathon time, and she's in the gym and she's just fabulous. And I'm like, oh, you know, poor me. And Steve's like, what are you doing? I said, look at this girl, you know, she's got this awesome time and it's brilliant and whatever. And he said, well, hang on a second. That's also her job. Like, that is what she does for a living as such. You know, do you want that? Do you want to spend whatever it is, 4 or 5 hours in the gym? And I said, I don't really have time for that. And you know, so it's looking at it really realistically. If you do want that, brilliant, great. You will find the steps. You'll find your path to get there. But if you don't really want it, then stop complaining about it. Do what you want to do. What you want.
Don't whine about it.
I know. Compliment before you complain. I'm all about the complimenting today.
But like, for real, because you're fooling yourself when you do that.
Yeah.
And so every good thing, like a brilliant speaker, I've been listening to a lot of brilliant speakers, and I love Joel Osteen, I love Tim Story, and they practice. I mean, Joel Osteen will practice like 24 hours, or, you know, not around the clock, but for like his message, he practices. And he doesn't really need to, right? Because he's got this huge audience and this huge following. He still practices, and he's one of the greats. I really think he delivers some very positive, even, you know, if you're not religious in any sort, I think he just delivers very positive messages that resonate with everyday people. And then, you know, when I look at Tim's story, he motivates and gets the crowd going. He said he practices 10 hours to deliver a message. So if we're looking at them and wanting to be on their level and have significant impact, then we have to look again at the roadmap and how did they get there? How much work did they put in? How many reps did they put in?
Yes.
They didn't just fall there by accident.
And I think that's what a lot of people forget, Linda, right? They often look at people, or we often look at people at a particular point in their journey, and we think this is the way that it's always been for them. They woke up with this success. They woke up with this audience, or, you know, they had a stepping stone, they had money, whatever it is. And we often don't think about the journey that they've been on, what it's taken for them to do all of that. And sure, yes, maybe some of them had loads of money and had a leg up or whatever else. But it's that work, it's the continuous, it's the consistency of the day-to-day habits these people are building, that then it just becomes automatic for them, instead of it being like it's so much work. if that makes sense.
It does make sense, because
Mm.
I'll relate that to an analogy of working out. Today I was
Yeah.
teaching my boot camp class, which, you know, your first class, you really were like, when I had like 50 plus people, you're like, "Ooh, this is big," and you're a little nervous, but then you don't even think about those things. And I saw one of my ladies had come in and she was doing one of our workout boards, kind of like a CrossFit board, but it's my own version of the board. And she was doing crab crawls, if you guys know what crab crawls are, on the
Yeah.
floor, and also doing like pogo hops on one leg and doing all the things.
Mm.
And some of the stuff was hard for her because she's not used to it,
Yeah.
right? She hasn't always done those things. But for the ladies I had in class that day, they've been working out with me for like 7 years, you know, solid. And they have no problem doing those things. It's like, oh, it's like no problem. It's a workout, yes,
Yeah.
but it's doable. They don't feel like they're going to die when they're doing gorillas across the floor, or they're doing bear crawls or burpees. They don't feel like they're going to die. And so it's the same thing when you start something. It's also new. You got to give yourself chance and grace to suck until you don't.
Beautiful. Allow yourself to be a beginner, and allow yourself to mess up and to make mistakes and to fail, or whatever words, like whatever language you want to put around that. Allow yourself to do it, because else how are you going to get better and to learn and shine?
And then even when you become a pro at it, you might still once in a while have, you know, mechanical difficulties or anything could
Yeah.
happen. And it's how you handle that with grace, just realizing it's just one of those things. I'll get through that like I've gotten through everything else.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think it's so important to remember, like in those moments as well, isn't it? So it's tough, it's hard, it's difficult, whatever it is. But reminding yourself again of all those successes you already have, like in your backpack or in your handbag, your purse, your wallet, whatever you want to call it. And it's like, right, yeah, of course I can do this.
So how do you support women around making mistakes? And let's say they, you know, make a big mistake at work,
Yeah,
they fail, they flop completely
yeah,
miserably,
of
on fall on their face, because that does happen too.
course.
Not as often as you think, but it does happen.
Yeah.
What is the encouragement around, okay, I have this imposter syndrome, I compare myself to everybody, what if I fail? Oh my gosh, I did fail.
And that's, like you said, it's the reality of it. Sometimes we do. And I think the first step is always that acknowledgement of it. But being really realistic, because we throw that word fail around quite a bit as well. Okay, so looking at everything, the context of everything is so important. And if it is a failure, like recognizing that, the awareness of it, allowing yourself to feel whatever it is you need to feel. So not rushing yourself through those emotions at all to get to the other side. Well, no, I have to pick myself back up and I have to move on. Whoa. Yes, when the time is right for you. Maybe there's some processing, maybe there's some learning and some growth that needs to be done first before you're ready to get back up on the horse. And allowing yourself, like you said, the grace, self-compassion. Put on your kindness coat, wear that self-compassion. Recognizing that it's part of being human, right? So sometimes then it's not all about us. So we don't take up this whole picture. But when we put all of this in perspective, and we realize that everybody makes mistakes and we mess up at different levels, at different points in different times. What's the resource then that we need when we're ready to move on from that? What can we pack in? I'm all about the bag. I don't know if I'm all about a bag today, but I am. The bag and the compliments and the self-compassion. One of the learnings that I can now take with me in moving forward, right? Well, I need to remember to respond instead of react. I need to take time out for myself, whatever it is. And when we put that frame of learning and growth and, you know, feedback, not failure. It's just information. When we put that around it, around the situation, we can move forward, we can move on. Helping ourselves to, yeah,
A
go on,
Steve
sorry.
Harvey. Oh, it's like a Steve Harvey moment. When Steve Harvey had the beauty queens on, did you ever see it? Where he
No.
called out I don't think it was his fault, but he called out the wrong winner
Oh no.
and they awarded her and everything. I think it was like Miss Venezuela, and I don't remember, maybe Miss Argentina. I don't know if I have that right. But it was a mishap, and then they had to totally switch it. And how embarrassing, how awful for the girls.
No.
But those things do happen. Somebody probably handed him the wrong like thing, and he read it off, and so then he apologized and they fixed it.
Yeah.
And you know, he didn't let that could have really put a wrench in, you know, things, but he didn't let that take him down. So it's always your mindset about, yes, this happened. What is the solution? What's the best scenario here? What can we pull out of this? And I think that all boils down to your, not only your mindset, but your self-belief, your self-esteem, your self-worth. And all of these things we're talking about today actually do boil down to how you feel about yourself. So where does self-worth come from, and how we see ourselves change things for us?
Oh, this is such a good one as well, because it's all about, let's say if I do fail at work, I make this huge mistake, right? One of those things, if I have high self-worth, okay, then it makes it easier for me to own that mistake as well, to put my hand up, not to point the finger of blame at anybody else, but to say, yes, I messed up. Because what are people going to say to that? Are they going to keep saying, remember that time you messed up? I sure do. Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, I thought you'd be embarrassed or something. No, I messed up and I own it. And look what I've learned. Look how I've grown from that as well. And part of that is accepting that we're, you know, I love the word flawsome. We're not perfect. What does that even mean? So we all have flaws. We will all make mistakes. It's just part of the process. And that's not to, you know, make small of some things either. But it's the reality of it. It's putting it in perspective. And so when we recognize that, you know, we're only human, but it is what it is. So belief that we can overcome these things as well. Having those, you know, so peeling away the layers of those limiting beliefs and holding a set of beliefs that serve us and that are conducive to our growth, instead of things like, I've got to get it right all the time. That's rubbish. I have to be perfect. Rubbish. Get rid of it. Limiting belief. No time or space for that at all. But things like, I'm constantly learning and growing. I'm constantly, you know, looking to better myself. These are powerful things. So when we explore and we become aware of what are the limits, like what are the beliefs that we're carrying around with us on a day-to-day basis, and how do those help us? How do they serve us? Because if they don't serve you, I'm sorry, but you don't get to carry them around. I mean, you can, but they won't help you.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think it also goes down to whether when we are at work, having the self-esteem, do we ask for a raise when we deserve it?
Yes.
We have these, you know, workplace challenges. How can women go in and ask for a raise when they are having imposter syndrome?
I love it. So I'd say first step is always recognize that the imposter is showing up. What's its job? The imposter has shown up to do a particular job. What's its job? And find that out. And again, its job is usually, you know, to keep you safe, make sure that you don't fail or make any of those mistakes, right? Get clear about what it is that you actually want. When you go in and you ask for that raise, how much, when do you want it? That clarity is absolutely important, because if that's not there, this is when the, oh, well, I just wanted to talk about, you know, actually, I can see you're busy, you don't have time, and we're gone. No, be clear about it. Have a figure in mind. Know your, you know, your negotiables and your non-negotiables. Then it's about when you're going in there, how do you go in there? Are you going in there, you know, shirking and kind of, oh, I just wanted to know, you know, what is it that you want? So how you walk in there, how you know, the presence that you present in that situation just goes a long way. And what are you, again, thinking about? It brings me back to the negotiables or the non-negotiables. What are you know, what are you going to be satisfied with? What's the best outcome that you could possibly get from that meeting of getting a raise? What's the next best? You know, what are you kind of like, what are you okay with? It's not amazing, but you know what? This is what I'd be willing to accept. And what's an absolute no? There's no way I'm putting up with that. So we have these boundaries then around what it is that we want, what it is that we're looking for. Knowing your self-worth. So even things like monitoring your self-talk as you go through this process. Reminding yourself that it's absolutely fine to ask for this money. You deserve it, and that's it. Catching those thoughts, challenging them, and changing them into something that's more constructive and conducive to getting what you want.
Love, love, love that. And that all boils down to our confidence. How can we have more confidence in ourselves?
Yes. Again, this is so good. Can I add one more thing to the asking for a raise piece as well, if that's okay? Because what I hear time and time again is it's the pause. When there's a pause for silence in the conversation, when the boss or the manager just goes, and then when we're uncomfortable with that silence, we go to fill it with, because I've been in this situation myself, and I hear a lot of my clients telling me the same thing. Get comfortable with the silence. Just get comfortable with any kind of silence. You know, it could be that your boss or your manager is processing the request for the raise. It could be that they're waiting for you to say something. Just get comfortable with the silence. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I love that tip so much, because it also goes along with when you set a boundary with somebody and you haven't been setting them, it shows so huge.
Yeah.
They get incredibly silent. And you, the people pleaser, which I'm just referring to myself sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you.
You get uncomfortable because they're silent, and you're a people pleaser, and you want to make them pleased, and you want to make them happy, and you want to make sure everything's good and everybody's okay. Because if everybody's okay, you're okay. If everybody's
yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I'm just saying, let that silence be there, because you're honoring your own boundary and they are having to adjust to it. Do not dumb your boundaries down just because of somebody's silent. That's where you need to honor your boundary, and you're probably going to get a little pushback too.
And that's the discomfort in that leads to growth, Linda, and leads to even stronger boundaries. Okay, so it's when we're not comfortable with it, and then we go, oh well, actually, you know what, I don't even need the money, and all of a sudden we've left the office. It's like, what was that about? So being, you know, no leaky boundaries, keep them solid. This is what I'm asking for. That's it.
And that's also a self-esteem thing, because you're basically saying, I'm valuable and valuable enough to ask for a raise. I'm valuable enough to have a difficult conversation. I'm valuable enough to have a boundary and a standard around the way I will and won't be treated.
Oh, fabulous. Beautifully said, Linda. Beautifully said.
Yeah, I think, like, I grew up not understanding boundaries, how to set boundaries, because that wasn't something my mom understood. And she was so sweet and so nice. Like, if you ever met her, you would just know within 1 second that what I am saying is true.
Yeah, I hear
So
you. Yeah.
that is a thing. It's a great thing, but it's also a thing that I had to overcome and learn how to recognize I'm not setting boundaries, how to set them, and not also to go to extreme, how to have some type of balance.
Yeah.
You know, we want to have a balance in our lives. Do you think that, now that we're speaking about balance,
Yeah.
because this is a topic, do you think that people can have a work-life balance, or is that a myth?
Oh, I love this. I love this. And I spoke with somebody about this quite recently. So she came to a coaching session and I loved it so much. I asked her if I could share the conversation. She said, absolutely. Do you think other people feel the same? And I said, yes, of course they do. So she comes to the conversation and she says, oh, well, you know, I'd love more balance. I want this work-life balance that people talk about. And I said, okay. And the silence. And she's like, so, and I said, well, what does that mean for you? She said, oh, I don't know. You know, the thing that everybody talks about. I said, but again, what does it mean for you? And quite often we hear work-life balance. We believe we should have work-life balance. We don't pause to think, what does that mean for me? What does that look like for me? How would I even know when I have it? And I describe it like, you know, if I'm on a seesaw with Steve, my husband, I'm very short. Steve is not short at all. And so if we run a seesaw together and he moves even slightly, that's going to affect the balance, right? So it's a process. It's not necessarily a thing that we have, something that's tangible. It's a process. It's fluid. Sometimes we're in balance, sometimes we're not. How do we know when we are? And when we have it, what's there? And if we don't have it, you know, when we recognize that we're not in balance, what's there as well? So we can do more of what feels right in terms of balance, and we can work on, you know, limiting or avoiding or mitigating things that just don't bring us balance. So I think it's subjective, to answer your question.
Well, I agree, but I also think people have, it's like this mythical creature, like Puff the Magic Dragon,
The
who lives
balance
in the
unicorn.
sea. Yeah. It's you think like everybody has this Lucky Charm life, you know, kind of like I don't know, Stepford Wives, or I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of this movie Pleasantville is the one I was trying to think of, and you guys will have to look it up, but where everything is just perfect, and but see, it isn't. And so to
No.
me, balance is, sometimes I pour into podcasting for weeks and weeks, and then I know my gym is going to be busy,
Yeah.
and it's going to be the season, so I've already poured into podcasting, so I don't, it's going to go for, you know, I'm done till the end of the year, and then I'm pouring into the gym business when it's the time for me to be pouring into it. But like in the summer, it's a little bit slower. Great time to get a lot of episodes under my belt. Do you see where I'm going with this? It's not that
Absolutely.
I can't do everything. I just can't do
Oh,
everything all at once. So I had to figure out my balance, what works for me, so I can deliver a
yes.
good product both times.
And that's, Linda, it's just fantastic the way you said it, right? The ebb and flow, the times, the opportunities at different times in the year and what works for you. You know, some people know, oh gosh, you know, this certain month of the year is always hectic, but I know after that, then we've got a couple of weeks off. It's, what does balance mean for you? Don't worry about what everybody else is doing.
I think that we just don't even really understand. We thought we were supposed to have some kind of nirvana, some kind of balance, you know, and everybody else knows how to do it. Why can't
No,
I balance it?
no, not at all. And day-to-day lives are so different, right? So having that flexibility, giving yourself the wiggle room and not being so hard on yourself. Again, you know, put on your your compassionate coach and recognize that you're doing your best with what you have in that very moment. Maybe that's
And
it.
when things are out of balance, they do make funny stories.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, come on, let's be real. I can remember when I was trying to think, it was my oldest.
Yeah.
I can't remember his age for sure, but I just have a clear vision of this. It was an ice storm. It was icy. My vehicle, I was teaching classes just like I do now. And I believe I was probably taking them with me or taking them to school. I don't know. Probably it was a snow day of some sort. Ice on the windshield, ice, and so we're stuck. We can't get, so, they're giving a little push from the back, and I'm just trying to kind of get it going. And it got going. And I could see him in the back running, wait for me, wait for me. I'm not going to leave him, but you know what I mean? And I just think these are this is real life. This is the things that happen.
Yes.
And we think we're supposed to have some version of perfection, like the June Cleaver, Leave It to Beaver back in the day, or just, we think it's supposed to be like Desperate Housewives where Bree is serving up tea and everything's so perfect. How can we overcome this vision of, we think we have to have this balance, but we think we have to be perfect and have perfection?
Oh gosh, if there's any two words that I decided years ago I was getting rid of, Linda, it was the P word, perfection, and it was the S word, should, because both of those just bring unrealistic expectations by the bucket load. And so it's the expectations that we have of ourselves, like in general, this idea of what it should be, instead of taking it for what it is. Gosh, I'm working 16-hour days and I'm doing this and it's all a bit manic at the moment. And maybe this is just how it is right now. And next week it'll be different. It doesn't have to be perfect. And when we have those, here's my problem. God, I'm going off on a rant now. Here's my thing about expectations. When we have these unrealistic expectations, they're way up here. And then we have the reality of this situation. And so in this space then, of those expectations that are not met, we have frustration, disappointment, upset, sadness, anger, so many uncomfortable emotions, because we've built something up like we think it should be something other than what it actually is.
Oh yeah, because we can't see what it is because we're thinking of what it should be.
Get back in the present and look at it for what it actually is. Now, can you make it better? Do you want to make it better? That's different. Instead of thinking, well, it should be better. They shouldn't have said that. They shouldn't have done that. It happened. Right?
And the should word, like what you said about
gosh.
should. If I say I should do this and I hear myself, I know I shouldn't. I know that I'm shoulding myself, which means I don't want to do it. It isn't.
Yeah.
It isn't. Yeah.
Stop shoulding all over yourself, girls. Like, stop it. Because it often indicates that it's somebody else's thing as well. Well, you should do that. That's not mine. Who says that? Who does that? So exploring the should, getting friendly with it, exploring it, and then you can ditch it. Who does that should belong to? Whose rule is that? Such a good question.
It's somebody else's. They're putting it on you. Like, let's say the holidays are coming up soon, and I always feel like I should make these. I should do that because this person is going to be like, "Oh, you didn't do that," and so then pretty soon we're in overwhelm at the holidays because we're shoulding ourselves to death. It sounds like I'm saying something else, but managing your overwhelm. And how can we cope? Like we're saying I should make the Russian tea cakes because my brother likes them, or my brother will die without my chocolate fudge if I don't make that. And pretty soon, when we have pleased every person on that list, we are managing overwhelm. How can we cope when that starts happening?
So stop with the shoulds first of all, catch the shoulds and check in with yourself. Ask yourself if it's something that you actually want to do. Okay, is it possible? Is it realistic for you to do it as well? So if you're making a cake to please someone else, that's great, that's lovely. Is it realistic? The other thing then about overwhelm is, you know, bring it back down. Overwhelm is usually up here, up in the air, and it's usually quite big. So the way that we think about it, the language that we use around overwhelm is really important. Catch yourself around that. Recognize those, what are they? I'm trying to think of like the proper term for them, but recognize those words that you're using, like everything, all, always. So I need to get everything done. I need to do it all. Catch those.
I need to.
Universals, that's the word. Yes. Catch the universals and catch those, you know, the needs and the shoulds and those words, and recognize when you're putting that pressure on yourself, because most of the time we're creating our own overwhelm. So check out your language. What's the language that you're using around that? Bring it down, chunk that, you know, all the holiday cooking or whatever you're doing, and take it step by step. Catch yourself when your mind goes to race into that, oh, there's still so much to do. Whoa, 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 reel it in. I'll do this now. Then I'll move on to that. So it's all this awareness, Linda, like catching, so powerful. Be aware of how you're talking to yourself and what you're allowing to sit in your headspace.
And I think it all still then ties down to this version of what we think we should be, this perfect version, what people expect of us, expectations, all these things that we're putting upon ourselves that we don't even need to carry. And then people get anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you could stop yourself at some of the things that Linda, the other Linda, listen, Linda, listen. What she has said today, I think you're going to stop yourself from a lot of anxiety, a lot of beating yourself up.
Yeah.
And there was so many good tips today, and I could keep going, but we literally have to end now. So you guys are probably hanging off the cliff. No, please don't stop.
There's always time for more, Linda. You know, it's fine. I don't mean today, obviously. I know we have to finish it there. And there's enough, right? There's a lot in here to unpack. So what we want to be conscious of then is not overwhelming people with all of these fantastic tips and tools as well.
Yes. And so I think there was so much good in everything you had to say today. I really love this conversation with you.
Thank you, Linda.
And it just makes me like see what a good coach that you are, and
thank you.
With helping empower others.
Thank you.
Really had a lot of good advice. What is one quote you can leave with the audience that's your favorite?
Oh, I love, and I want to make sure I have it right. I think it's Christian D. Larson. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think of it, Linda. It's you probably know this one as well. Stronger than you think, you're braver than you believe, you're stronger than you think. Oh, what is it? Oh, I'm stuck for it now. But it's that reminder of, like, you have more resources within you than you think you actually have. Give yourself credit, because we do not give ourselves enough credit. You can
believe in yourself, and you'll be surprised the magic that happens.
There you go. See, there's a quote. I'm going to end on that quote. There you go. I'm going to take yours.
That's perfect. I don't know. That just came out. This has been so fun. And where can everybody get do you have anything that you're offering today?
So, well, I've recently published Just 3 Things, which is my second coaching book.
I love that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so it's all about keeping change simple, bite-sized ways to transform your life. So Just 3 Things is available on Amazon. It's available all over the world. Get your hands on a copy. Get in touch with me. I'm at lindabonnarcoaching.com. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. get in touch. I'd love to hear from you.
And we have enjoyed you so much. And thank you guys. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Sisterhood of Sweat. If you like everything Linda did today, not this Linda, but the other Linda.
Both of us, Linda, we're both great.
Make sure to order her book and just tag us on Instagram and let us know you like this episode. As always, keep on keeping on. Bye, everyone.